Hello, everyone. It's Joe. I'm enjoying recording videos at this time of day without creating a habit, as I've mentioned in previous videos. I've just gotten up and dug my morning hole, and I'm sitting around in the woods getting ready to go into town. And I'm very excited to talk at this time. Um, there's something really special about digging a hole. I think little kids know this. They'll just sit down and dig a hole for no reason. And when I was little, I loved to dig in the sandbox, though we also dug up other places of the yard, I reckon, as well. And yeah, camping, the necessities of, living outdoors have given me maybe a callback or a reprise of one of my favorite childhood activities. And anyway, it's a time to think, doing some kind of manual labor, some kind of thing that engages the mind just a little bit, which uh, gives me time to think if I want to, gives me time not to think, to daydream or just meditate or, let some thoughts ramble around in my brain without really bringing up any new thoughts. It's a habitual activity. It's something that takes a little while. So I have a little time of just doing this task where I can think or not think as I please. And that's nice. I like that kind of habit of, well, I'm going to be doing this for the next, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, however long it takes. And so I can do as I please. You know, it's a lot like the comfort of doing manual labor for a job. To say, well, I'm doing this task for this amount of time. That's what I'm doing. I've committed to that, so that's off the table. And I'm just going to feel as good as I can while I do it. My mind and my hands will be busy, you know. For example, I used to put cans on shelves at grocery stores, and I could keep my mind and body busy doing that and just have a good time otherwise. Um, Even when I got promoted and had a different experience with that job, I still found times to be happy just doing simple work and, you know, instead of the manager work that I was hired to do. Sometimes I would just find myself doing the basic work that the regular employees did. Just filling up a jar or whatever. And yeah, I found it was really nice. Okay, I'm back. I had a visit from a tick and had to get him off of me as quickly as possible. Him or her, I don't know what gender ticks are. Do they have gender? Who knows? Anyway, like I said, manual labor is fun, and it gives me a chance to just kind of zone out and enjoy myself. And I'm sure there are many wise factory workers, janitors, food service people who simply have a nice time in their life and go into work, put in some time, feel as good as they possibly can while doing it, and have really good lives. So anyway, manual labor is great. It gives me time to think, and then it's sometimes nice to record and talk with you afterwards. I love this time after I've gotten up, and I love to get up slowly, to allow myself to sleep and go back to sleep and wake up and then allow myself to be awake just lying there thinking about things or thinking about my dreams. Um, Oftentimes I learn quite a bit about myself and about other people sometimes too from my dreams. So, it's a wonderful time for me. I really enjoy it. Anyway, I'm thinking about that torpor between sleep and wakedness, and I'm kind of going back into it now. I'm really enjoying that blissful meditative kind of experience that we all have every morning if we schedule our lives correctly. You know, many of us will get up at the last possible moment to go to work, But if we give ourselves time to wake up slowly or do a job that has flexible hours, we can really enjoy that part of the day to its fullest. It's free, it's very enjoyable, it takes nothing but making it a priority. That's all it takes. So yeah, I like that time. I like my digging a hole time, and I like my talking with you time. And today I wanted to go into a mental habits, what should I say, topic that I had discovered while doing my digging. And I wanted all of you to remember, hopefully, the video before this one, if you've seen it. I'm not sure it has a title, but check out the one right before this, because I talked about some mental habits, and I have a new one. I think maybe I'm in a phase of discovering a bunch of these and weeding them out of my thought processes, which, like I said before, can make me think faster by taking out the unnecessary reactions to thought that I have that are habitually tucked into my thought processes. The one I want to talk about today is the idea that if I do something once, I have to do it always. This kind of comes in with the idea that if I enjoy something, I have to make it a habit and do it every day. But it's on a micro scale. It's the idea that if I do something and it's good and I like doing it, I have to do it all the time. When I catch myself thinking this, I do a daily task a certain way. I try it a certain way, or I accidentally do it this different way, or whatever. I discover a way of doing things that I like. And I say, oh, now I should do it all the time. And that almost implies a judgment if I go back to the old habit, or if I just, decide to do things differently. If I, move on and experiment and try to find a way to do it even better. It's like an idea that here's the good way to do things, and you must do it this way all the time. For those of you playing the home game, I'm working with this glare from the sun, and I think this is the best I can get. I hope it's not too distracting. It's actually pretty cool looking. I hope that you guys will indulge me, because I kind of enjoy it, and I don't want to get up and find another spot to record. That being said, this mental habit of we need to do things this good way that we've found always. I think a lot of us grew up that way. I think there's a right way and a wrong way to do things. And the assumption is that there's one right way to do things and a lot of wrong ways. But in reality, there's a lot of right ways and a lot of wrong ways. If you even want to indulge in judgmental language at all. I'm catching myself doing it. And it's hard. In our culture, we're taught to use judgmental language, just like we're taught to use, gendering language, to refer to everything as male or female. Heck, in other languages, people refer to objects as male and female. Gender is deeply entwined in our language, just as judgment is. And just as we do with gender, we can come up with creative new ways to not make those distinctions. I'm still in the process, as you can tell. So, like I said, for mental health and happiness reasons, it's really nice to, what should I say? It's really nice to tell myself, this is a right way to do this. This is a preferable way. Instead of right and wrong, I'm putting it on a gray scale. Like, this is one of the things on the good, desirable, useful side of the scale. There may be better ways to do this task. Surely there's ways that I find more difficult, consume more energy or whatever. But yeah, whenever I run into a small task and I have success with something, I do it a new way and I have success, I think, oh, this is good, I'm going to do it like this from now on. And that's not wrong. If we discover a good way of living, whether on a small scale, with a little daily habit that makes life just a little bit easier every day, that adds up over time. Or maybe we discover some big thing, whatever it is that makes big things more easier, more easier. That's not good grammar, but you know what I'm trying to say. Regardless of whether it's small or big, whether it's one big thing or a small thing that adds up over time, right? That's what I'm trying to say. So, what I'm wondering with you guys is, can you identify those places in your head? Can you identify those places where you tell yourself a positive must last forever? We do this with the relationships all the time, right? We always tell ourselves that I'm enjoying this relationship, and so it should always continue and always be enjoyable. If it doesn't continue, or if it stops being pleasurable, there's something wrong. And, you know, people get attached to each other too much in those ways. We end up with people out of neediness instead of love, right? As you guys know, I love David Data's books, and I have found that theme of people becoming attached either for physical attraction and lust reasons or emotional attraction and neediness reasons. He talks about that a lot, and presents a third alternative of people being connected as spiritual beings, and letting the attraction from the other two, kind of diminish or pass by. Not that people aren't attracted to each other physically or emotionally, just that there's something bigger that's a lot more valuable, and doesn't create neediness and clinging. It doesn't create that kind of physical attraction that you can only keep up for so long. So yeah, I think there's a third way, and I agree with David Data. With you guys, remember that when you have a positive, when you figure out something new, you don't have to do it all the time. You're not required to do it that way all the time. If you accidentally do something right, you're allowed to accidentally do something wrong. No one's going to judge you, and it doesn't take away the good thing you've done. I noticed this in a lot of my piano students. If they'd get something right for the first time, they wouldn't want to do it again because they might do it wrong that time. And, well, that's life. You could do something right 100 times in a row and still get it wrong once out of 100. Those are pretty good odds. If you can perform something 99 times out of 100, correctly, and then once with a mistake, that's pretty darn good. I've gone on a stage, knowing things a lot less well than that, even as a professional musician. Of course, we pros know that we can work around mistakes, we can work with mistakes, we can accept them and put our whole heart into the music regardless of whether or not we physically, technically did something the optimal way. We know that we have great value to the audience, and what we're trying to say through the music isn't the music and the notes itself. And yeah, it's one of those things I learned by doing music for a really long time, and I'm glad that I did do that for so long. So, anyway, when you get something right, if you figure out a new way of doing something, you don't have to do it all the time. I may have mentioned once I had a habit of sharpening my knife every time I got out my food and my kitchen supplies. So I had a very sharp knife. But I started to resent it. I started to feel trapped. Like, oh, every time I eat, now I have to do this thing. The part of me, my conscious mind or my kind of logistical mind had decided, okay, well, this is a good time because we want to make sure the knife is sharp, so let's set a time that we're always going to do it. And that sounds practical. That sounds good. But there's also another part of my mind that wants to do whatever it wants to do in the moment, and doesn't want to be told that it has to do something at a certain time. It took all the fun out of sharpening my knife and having a sharp knife and feeling, proud like an old Boy Scout to have a good sharp knife that I can rely on. Instead, I just stopped doing it. I stopped sharpening my knife. I probably haven't done it in months. Used to do it every day. As many of you know, I put a habit onto this video recording and screwed it up and didn't do it for a while. I came back to it a little faster than I did the knife sharpening for some reason. Maybe because I love talking with you guys so much. But yeah, now I have favorite times of day that I like to record, but I don't always do it at this time. That's the idea. There's a false, maybe it's a false equivalency. It's this idea that we have to, what's the word? I'm getting distracted. I'm thinking about a friend of mine who knows about some of these logical terms. But anyway, I was just, I just got distracted. Bummer. Um, I'm just wondering, false equivalency, whatever it's called. I'll have to ask my friend. But the idea that, if I do something right, I've somehow committed to always doing it right. This probably comes from impatient parents, teachers, older kids. If you're struggling to get something right and you finally get it right for the first time, then they're like, oh my God, you finally got it right. Now I don't have to put up with you not being able to do it. It's probably that attitude being projected on us from humans we knew as little kids, humans that we knew who were more advanced than us in certain ways and were very glad to see us, grow in our capabilities. They were glad to see us grow, but they weren't willing to accept anything less than all the time. If we learned how to do something, if we got good at something, we had to do it all the time. And we weren't allowed to slip back and relearn the same thing. And that also prevents us from experimenting more and coming up with an even better way of doing it, which might involve, screwing it up a few more times. So yeah, I think it's the idea that people will be impatient with us. I really think that's what causes this particular mental habit, this particular idea. Like I said, false equivalency, I don't know what it's called, but I'd like to. And to the person that I'm referring to, you know who you are. If you're watching this video, help me out. Let me know some of these terms, fallacies, and logical terms that I can use as tools when I recognize them. For the rest of you, we all recognize mistakes in thought. We all recognize unnecessary thoughts, unhealthy thoughts, habits of thought that we created as children in order to fit in with other people that we don't need anymore. Regardless of what they're called, we recognize them through the little bit of negative emotion that pops up when we think them. There's a part of us deep inside that knows all of the little tricks, knows all the little things that don't feel right. It knows what a logical fallacy is, or, what a false equivalency is, or whatever these things are called. So when you feel these, when you have a thought and then you feel that little bit of negative, that's a sign. That's a sign that there's a good thought that you should keep with just a tiny little bit of negative you should get rid of. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Keep the baby, just, drain the tub. The point is, we can weed out these little negatives from our lives. We can weed out these little things, not let them spiral out of control and scare us away from even having the thought at all, which can happen a lot, but accept the, positive and negative feelings that we have. We have feelings that we like and feelings that we don't, and when we have a feeling we don't like, recognize what the trigger was and see if it's really necessary. If it's necessary, if it's a part of life, accept it and move on. Like if a bug bites me or if a tick climbs on me and interrupts my video, well, I just get them off of me and move on. I just used gendering language again. I'm working on it, fellas, ladies, in-betweens, all y'all. I'm working on it. But anyway, the point is, we live in our minds. Language shapes our minds. Our habits of thought shape who we are. And don't feel bad when you notice habits of thought that could be improved. Be happy that you can improve your life. Because all the little things that we improve like that, all the things that we reframe from negative to positive, well, yeah, maybe we want to be neutral, but positive is still better than negative, We just want that third step of accepting everything. But while we're on the path, reframe things, feel better, pick out the parts of your habits that you don't like and keep the good parts. And don't force yourself to do them every day, especially if it's a habit, to create that rule. So, anyway, I feel like I've come full circle with this one, and I hope we can add it to the stack of mental habits that I've recognized in myself. Maybe you guys recognize different ones in yourself. You could teach me by sharing those on YouTube in the comments or on the Facebook group. I'd love to hear about what you notice yourself thinking. I'd love to hear about the little habits that you're picking out of your brain with love, with patience. But I'd love to see what you're doing, because maybe those are ones that I've never had an issue with, so I've never thought of. Maybe they're ones that I do have an issue with, but I've never thought of. I think we can gain a lot by sharing with each other those little practical things that we make just a little better. For some people, it's taking time out of the day for self-care. For some people, it's changing thoughts. For some people, it's changing the daily routine or the daily habit to do this one little thing. And I'd love to know what your specific examples are, because I think all of us have a lot to learn from that, from each other's honest experiences, from our honest attempts to make life just a tiny bit better. And knowing that that will add up over time, that if every day life is just a little bit better, we'll have just a little bit more energy for loving people, for realizing all the adventures and projects and successes that we want to have in life, and for just having a good time. So that's it. I love you guys all very, very much, and I hope that you will come visit me. The best place to visit is joeneely.net/community. Neely is Neely. If you haven't seen it on your screen, it should be there on YouTube. But check me out at joeneely.net/community. That's the best place to see all the places you can interact with me and each other. I love you all very much, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.